You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jourdan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The sales energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the sales energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the sales energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Boom!
That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that.
Woo!
Here he is, live in. I got the outdoor version today. I'm outside. You know why?
You're out selling?
They actually asked me to leave inside.
Of course.
I was at a Starbucks, and and I was there all day. So my trick is this: when I have to be on the road and do stuff like that, and I was going to go to a hotel, but this place is just so cool. I'm in Athens, and like, if you want to go to like a coffee shop, go to one that there's just young people. I mean, and so you go to a college and you go to a coffee. It's like so exciting. It's
so exciting that young people kick you out. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, it's because they're trying to learn. They're doing work there, and I'm like a lunatic. Because you bring the worst out in me. Usually I'm calm and
You say the sweetest things. You say the sweetest things all the time.
Usually, but I am going to be a little bit more demure today because, I've discovered I'm training a bunch of guys in a particular business, and they're younger, and I notice how nervous they are when they go in, and it's like shocking to me with the product that they're selling that there's any nerves involved into it. And then I realize it's because they're unprepared. I learned a long time ago, you want to prepare beyond nervousness. So when you get that prepared, there's nothing to worry about. Well, today I forgot my mic. It's sitting very nicely on my kitchen table. And so, but I had to leave and I missed it. So I feel unprepared and a little nervous, especially because of our guest today, Chris.
Wow, that was as if I thought the segues could not get any better. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about putting in the reps and getting better every day. And when you do a show every week, the segues, they just keep getting better.
Yeah, that's it. It's a skill. Segues is a skill. People don't realize. There's people who make a big living being like MCs, of being able to transfer from one topic to another and all that. But this one's easy for me because our next guest here has been someone that I've been kind of watching for a long time. Met her must be 10 years ago. Wow. And what happens is many people, when they're a successful sales type of career and they want to move on to the next thing, more consulting or coaching, and it's the next thing, and they'll get a customer or two, and 99% of the people who go into coaching will wind up failing in that endeavor and going back into a sales role. But our guest today is one that actually has made the turn and has had a successful coaching experience for the past 10 years. And I'm pleased as punch just to figure out how she's done it. So without any further ado, please allow me to introduce to you and learn from my friend, Christine Harrington. Come on down.
Woo.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
All right.
I tell you what. And Christine, the thing I was always most impressed, even when I first met you, is you kind of taught me how to brand yourself. Like you were a brand before brands were cool. Like you were doing that whole. How did you get started with that?
With the Savvy Sales Lady?
Yeah.
Well, it started back when I was doing group benefits. And, I spent 4 decades in the group benefits world. And, well, I shouldn't say 4 decades, 4 decades in the insurance world, group
Mhm.
benefits being one of many products that I sold over that time. And someone had said to me that I was savvy. And so I thought, well, if I ever start my business, I'm going to keep that in mind, because what happened, Dan, um, sales professionals were coming to me asking me, how was I getting into these big companies to sell group benefits to? And I just started giving my advice away for free.
Yeah.
And then when I decided to start the business, that's where I began with the Savvy Sales Lady.
Whoa, hold on a second. So that's your tagline? Is that what you think? You get people into the big room with the right person? Is that your skill?
Well, yes, in group benefits. However, in the coaching world,
Yeah.
chances of you getting inside the big fish, the whales, they have their own training departments. Everybody's now going
Yeah.
to in-house coaching. So I really primarily work with small to medium-sized businesses. But what really differentiates me, in my opinion, from everybody else, like you, Dan, I am still in the trenches selling, just like you are.
Yes.
So, and that's really what makes the difference, because some of these books that have been put out, some of these
Oh, is that just me or her?
Looks like we're.
Oh.
There you are,
Okay.
Christine. You're back.
Okay. What makes you and I unique, Dan, is that we actually are in the trenches working every single day. So, I not only sales coach and train, but I also cold call for small businesses, because you and I had that conversation years ago, where
Oh, really?
sales reps hate the cold call. And
Yeah.
you sent me your cold calling tips, and which were fabulous, and you cold call. So what I decided to do, especially during COVID, when I had to pivot because nobody was doing face-to-face workshops and training, I started cold calling for small businesses to help grow their business.
That is dynamite. So you still hop on the phone? I mean, I'm going to do it today. I love it. It's the only time I'm in control of anything.
Oh,
Because I get to decide what I'm going to dial. I get to decide what I'm going to say. I get to decide, because I'm married. So I got like no control other than the cold call. I mean, that's the whole thing. So that's cool. So you're still in it. And I think it's important, but you tell me, when you say in sales, it's not just we're selling every day, we're selling and prospecting every day. And that's the thing. People think you can get to a certain level, then you can get to stop prospecting. So how do you keep, and I guess you do more than just in the insurance business, but how do you keep people motivated to do that which they hate?
well, I personally don't believe in motivation. Motivation is a feeling. So when someone says to me that I'm coaching, oh, Christine, I just don't feel motivated to make calls today. No, your feelings are now telling you what you are and are not going to do. And if you continue down that road, you're not going to have your sales quota met by the end of the month. It's discipline. What leads someone to just keep going even when they don't want to do it is not motivation, it's discipline. And discipline comes about from establishing good sales habits to motivate you into getting your list done for the day. So I'm not a big motivation person. It's a fleeting feeling. It comes and goes, where nobody wants to talk about discipline because it's hard.
Well, you are one tough cookie. Okay, so if we had to get just one bit of advice, don't give it all away, but let me, how does someone start developing discipline in their sales day?
So what I teach is when I'm coaching a new sales team, I first look at all of their activities that they do during the day. So I ask them to just put down a checklist of, face-to-face meeting or Zoom prospecting call, or maybe it'll be answering emails or developing the pipeline further, whatever they're doing during the day. Dan, 100% of the time, most people's sales activities are less than 20% a day. No prospecting, no selling appointments. Now, I grew up in the world of insurance sales where you were expected to have 10 to 15 face-to-face appointments a month. A week. So think about that. 10 to 15 a week. Plus, I had no support. I had to answer all my own emails, do my own quotes, and do my own prospecting.
Yeah, literally impossible to exist without discipline and without scheduling your time. Like, for instance, we got on this show today at 1200, at 12 o'clock. I like to be military because I think it's cool. So we got on the phone at 12 o'clock because that was the time. It was it. So if you schedule time to cold call or to prospect at that time, you don't have to think about it. You just do it. So the scheduling of your day is really important for you to develop that muscle, that discipline muscle to get going.
And
Dan, go ahead.
That, Dan, is a sales habit. So once you have your 2023 goals that you know what you've got to sell throughout the year, we all know that. You break it down until you've got your weekly, what you have to do every single week. So you build your sales habits around the goal to support the goal so that you don't get derailed. So a sales habit would be that every single morning you would review your day, and hopefully the night before you've scheduled that day, or you've scheduled it on a Sunday for the week. But your day, from the time you start 8 to 5, every single minute should be accounted for and scheduled so you stay on track.
Oh my God, this is so old school. I just love this. You know what you sound like? Remember that book a billion years ago? Frank Bettiger, what the heck was that name? How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Sales. Remember that book?
I don't, but I know the movie.
But it was like an old, I think, if I recall, and I probably read it 20 years ago, he had like his cards of his weekly calls and stuff they would have to do. And back then I was reading, it was like he'd earn $7 a commission, he'd earn this and that. But he said, because of this stupid thing that I was doing. Yeah, oh my gosh, Chris Doan, is he not the best?
Yes.
And Christina Harris. I mean, this guy's he's actually improved from unbelievable to being unbelievable.
How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bettiger.
I freaking nailed that.
No, you said Bettiger, and you were about as good as pronouncing Garen Bellani's last name.
Oh yeah.
Hello, Swag Surfers. And Christine, you've got a big fan as well who's joining us on LinkedIn. Kirsten Brundage Woodbury, she loves you, and you are her mentor. So thanks for joining us.
Wonderful.
And thanks for joining us. And don't be a chicken. If you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all of the tubes, be sure to join in because we have Christine Harrington here, sales training coach, the savvy sales leader. You know what I love about the word savvy, Christine, is it's one of those words I can't spell. I don't know why. It's like restaurant is another one of mine. It's like, why does it have 2 V's in it? It's like, what kind of, the English language it can be so like it abnormal to me. But in any event, that's the book, Dan, and I took it off the rails. That's what I do sometimes. But Frank Bedker's book, you were saying.
Yeah, no, but I think he was an insurance guy too. But the way you schedule out your whole week, it's such a kind of an old school way of doing things, but it absolutely works. Is for nothing else is to focus, to keep your mind focused on the things that earn you money and the things that don't.
Well, Dan, I actually have case studies that show the work that I've done with teams. And one team, they increased their sales by 68%. All I did was change their activities around and focus them on getting more sales activities during the week.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to more prospects, talk to more customers, and you'll earn more sales, and you can make that more efficient. So how long, I'm intrigued by this, how long are your programs? Is it a 1 day? Is it a 2 day? Is it a 6 week and a 9 month?
It really depends on the
you know
team.
what I hate? There's one thing that ticks me off about all, and that's when people say depends. I'm looking for an answer. Give me an answer.
No, it does depend because I've had sales teams that I've been able to turn around in 60 days. I've had some that wanted to continue on for 6 months to a year. So, you know, what I do, Dan, is I lead with the training, and then I do about 6 months of coaching to reinforce the training.
Aha.
Yeah. So
there we go. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So it depends on them.
Well, if it's an individual client, we may work together for a minimum of 3 months. So I guess I can give you that. I'll do a minimum of 3 months. But as you know, when you're working with teams, it takes longer than 3 months. It could, because you are undoing all these years of bad habits that they've gotten into.
Well, how long? I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm asking you the questions that a customer would ask you, and so, one of the things. So, how long before you become a crutch?
Well,
like people could lean on you too much, and then,
I agree. That can absolutely happen. It's like the psychologist that keeps that client on for 30 years. You know, at some point you should be cutting the cord, like maybe 20, 25 years ago. But they can use you as a crutch. And I agree with that. So what I've done, I'll just give you an example with one of my teams that I'm working with now. So for 4 months, I regularly met with 11 people every single week. We had an hour coaching session every single week. I led with a training, did the coaching, and then I noticed that it was time to wean off about 6 of them. There were still 5 that still had some issues that were struggling. So I talked to the owners and I said, I would like to put these 5 every other week, and I want to see how they do. And then eventually next month go to once a month. And then the following month, we're done with them. So I'll change things up based on the results that I see that I'm getting. And by the way, this team, I started coaching them in June, did the training June 1st, started coaching them in June, and they met their yearly goal by the beginning of October.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay, now my question for you is, Hotshot, how have you parlayed that into more customers?
Well,
because you got to drink your own, you got to drink out of the same fire hose that you're giving your people.
I do. So I do testimonials with my clients. If I'm understanding your question correctly, Dan, what are you asking me again?
Well, what I'm trying to, because there are coaches that watch this show, and there are people who are trying to get, most consultants and coaches are excellent. They're really good. They're students of their craft, and they can make tremendous strides in somebody else's business, yet they struggle in their own. So you've managed to create a career of coaching, not just a client here and a client there.
Right.
And so I'm asking for the secret sauce on their behalf on how to utilize your success to get more customers.
It's recommendations. I get recommendations from my prior clients, and my current clients. I have them do testimonial videos for me. One of my clients right now, she did a testimonial interview. I cold called for her small business, and I closed 26 deals in 9 days. And she did a video on that. And she actually asked me to stop cold calling because they didn't have the staff to help support what I sold. So,
Wow.
Yes. All right. So let me jump in now. Here's the teachable moment for everybody, not for you. But when that happens, what you've just noticed is that your customer, your customer there has a different problem. And their different problem now is managing all the new leads that they're having. By the way, that's very common. I talk to a lot of digital marketing people who do wonderful jobs for a roofing company or for an HVAC company. They get more leads than they can handle. They say, hold off, stop. But now they have another problem in operation. So someone like yourself or someone who's looking into more passive income opportunities takes that understanding and says, hey, let me hook you up with someone else. Maybe Garen Bellini over here, one of the people that are watching, maybe he has some sort of, you can help them build a pipeline and build a way for them to get more business. And you share that information with them and get a little juice off the back end from Garen. I'm just making that up. But noticing that your customer has a problem is another opportunity for another sale for you. You have the most, when you have a customer, you have the asset that other people want.
Yeah. Well, what ended up happening with that client is I recruited 6 people for her.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So I solved her problem, and now I'm cold calling for her again.
And
so
are you coaching those people?
No. Now these are instructors, so she's coaching them on the business. So
I see.
Yeah. So I didn't get involved in coaching them because it's something right completely out of my realm. But I did recruit the people she needed in order to sustain the business that I brought to her.
That's great. So you'll be a cold caller for other people as well.
Yeah, I'm meeting with a new client next week. I've got another one that I'm talking to the following week. And yeah, I'm cold calling for 2 people now. I'm training a sales team, and I have an individual client too. So I'm maxed out on my time.
Yeah, that's right. Is there any particular industry that you're more comfortable? Is it all B2B, I take it?
It's all B2B. And I mean, I have coached in all different types of industries. So, I get that question a lot. Well, have you ever coached in this industry or that industry? Really, Dan, you know this, sales is sales. All right. You get to know the product, you get to know their process, and that's how you learn how to coach them. So I'm very immersive in learning what they do and learning their product so that I can give them coaching that's very different.
Okay, well, this is great. So what would you say to someone who's looking to hire their first salesperson? They're just looking at, and it's almost like when you hire your first salesperson, you can't make any mistakes. They tend to mess up a lot. What would you suggest they do? Would you suggest they start with a coach also right off the bat, or should they do the training?
So this is the biggest mistake I see, okay, in talking to small businesses. They try to coach a junior salesperson thinking that they'll be able to make them into an elite salesperson. I always recommend that if you're going to hire someone to do your sales, get a seasoned sales professional. Don't get a junior sales professional. Do what it takes to get that seasoned sales professional, because that will be your biggest boost in sales. And, trying to hire someone who may only have a year experience or not much experience at all, you're constantly trying to get them up to speed, where you should just go right for the elite sales professional.
Got it. Well, so are you more, would you be more helpful for a company that has inbound leads already, kind of figured out a way how to do that, and the people on the inside, the AEs, to close the deal, or more kind of combination people that do half and half type of thing?
I've done all the above, Dan. The current team that I'm coaching now, there's one in California and one in Kentucky. Both of them, they prospect on their own. They don't have leads coming in. They go get their own leads. And frankly, I always feel like that's the best, because one of the things that I have noticed that's lacking with salespeople is, because they're constantly being fed leads, they don't know how to get their own leads. They don't have any idea how to have those conversations to hunt for their own leads, or even where to look. So it can all, I understand that the whole inbound, outbound, those people are looking for quantity, where some of the smaller businesses and medium-sized business, they're not looking for quantity as much as quality. Their salespeople really have to be attuned into qualifying that prospect correctly and develop them into a client. So a lot of relationship building.
And you can do that. Well, actually, so that's an important thing. So I get the idea that you can. I just snorted. I breathed in and I snorted. You see, this is the benefit of not having a good mic, because you wouldn't hear the snort happen.
But you had to say that you snorted.
Sharing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
thanks for oversharing. Right?
Apparently, I'm a snorter, because my wife is. Chris knows this, but you don't. So we get this like surgical tape. I sleep with tape over my mouth, so I can. Otherwise, I'll breathe through my mouth, and so that way I breathe through my schnozzle. And so. This is
now that's a visual I'm going to have to try to pry out of my mind.
The first night, it's like terrifying, because you don't know, and you try to talk or so, or you ever try to, you cough and you got this thing. And so, why did you get me off track, Chris Stone? Here I am trying to have a serious conversation.
Sorry, this is,
Okay, but here's an important thing. So when you say I can tell very quickly that on a cold call, you can create a sort of relationship with the person there. How do you make that transition that, okay, now I'm going to give you off to somebody else? Do you stay involved at all? Or do you find that sometimes people just want to do business with you and you can't make that transfer?
No, there's a series of steps that you can take, and it's been different for the ones that I've cold called for. I know this frustrates you, Dan.
It depends. Are you going to say it depends? Okay.
But truly, that's where people get off track, is that they try to do the same thing in every situation, and you can't do it that way. You have to be savvy about selling.
That is great. Well, and how does one become savvy? Is it just experience?
It's experience, it's listening, it's trying different things. in order to find out what works and what doesn't work. Like, for example, a cold call protocol that I use for one small business I'm working with now will not work for these other two that I'm talking to, because I'm talking to directors with school directors and principals with this cold calling company. With the others, I'll be talking to CEOs and vice presidents of sales. So it's going to be a totally different protocol that I'll develop for them.
And do you require, I'm stuck on cold calling right now because I have a client too that's having, and they got, 4 or 5 people, but only one of them is making, and I think it's a pretty minimal amount of calls, 50 or 60 a day. And only one of them is doing it. Others just can't get there for whatever reason. And so in that situation, do you have any, are there any expectations that one should have for their daily productivity?
Okay, that's a good question.
Or is it going to depend? If you say depend, I'm leaving. I'm done with the depends.
Well, soon you'll be wearing them, Dan. So.
Whoa!
There we go.
Here comes the snort.
Well, now we officially have a soundbite.
So I don't coach, and personally, I don't cold call in quantity. I may take 4 hours a day and cold call and maybe call 25 to 30 people. Now, why is that? Because what I'll do is, before I make the call, I just do some quick research to understand who this client is that I'm calling, or this prospect is that I'm calling. And then when I call, if I get voice message, I have a prepared voice message, and then I turn around immediately and will send an email with the same message and say something like, "Hi, Jim. I just left you a voice message. I thought maybe this might be more convenient for you if I followed up with an email." And then I'll just, a couple of sentences. And here's the mistake people make. They'll say, "If you have any questions, feel free to call me." It's not the prospects. It's not their place. It's not their responsibility to get a hold of you as a salesperson. So yes. I always say something to the effect, "I realize you're very busy. I'll get back to you on Monday between 1 and 3.
That's dynamite. Thank
Beautiful.
you for saying that. That's great. I'm even put off when people have on their message, "I'll get back to you when I have a chance."
Yeah.
I'll get back to you when I have a chance. Yeah. It makes you feel like an idiot. All right. So I cut you off for that. So that's great. So you tell them and you leave that message. I think the important thing is that you actually have a process.
Oh, I do. Like, and there's much more than what I can share with you in this hour that we're together. I have a whole cold calling protocol, which is why I'm rolling out a cold calling course that I'm hoping will be finished finally the end of first quarter. So it'll be all of my protocols. I'll have case studies. I'll have testimonials. I'll have scripts. All these tools that everyone can use and kind of tweak it to make it their own for their own industry.
Well, and when is that going to be available?
I've got the script written. I'm working on the videos now, but it'll be hopefully by the end of first quarter, so the end of March.
All right. What does that mean for layman people? I'm trying to tie you down. Is that like March 30th? It'll be done?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, March 30th. So, and I guess a way that I'll find out is if I get on your newsletter list.
You get on my newsletter list, Sales Pearls, and or you subscribe to my sales school library, and it will be you'll be notified. actually what I'm going to do, whoever subscribes to the Sales School Library, they'll get notified first, and they'll get a discount for a certain period of time for the course. So you can just go to my website as they're showing you right now and sign up. When you sign up for the Sales School, you also sign up for the newsletter. Now, why would you want to sign up for the newsletter? Because that's exclusive content only my newsletter subscribers get. So all the content on all my other platforms, including over 400 sales training videos on YouTube. the
400.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
there it is.
Wow. And if I, this is how I first, remember you and being so impressed, because you were making videos when videos weren't cool.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You were just.
By the way, I hid those videos. I hid those very first videos. They were so bad.
Oh, you should put them up. Actually, that should be one of your. As a new subscriber to your newsletter, you get your first videos.
Yeah,
that embarrass.
That's a good
Actually,
idea, Dan.
I should do that too. I'm going to write that down. That was a good idea, Chris Stone.
Yeah, it sounds like an idea you came up with. So, Christine, I'm curious. You have done cold calling historically for a while, and I think there's a lot right now that a lot of people that are younger than us are getting in this, and they don't like to get calls, right? They operate via texts, call them Gen Z, call them Gen X, whatever you want to call them. And so when they get a call from a number they don't recognize, they're not like Dan Jourdan, picks up this phone no matter who it is, even if it says unknown caller or potential spam risk. Dan looks at it as an opportunity, spam. Right? But I think, so I guess the question would be, what has changed most in cold calling, and what has remained the same?
Well, cell phones has changed cold calling, absolutely. So I always advise people when they're going to cold call on their cell phone, make sure their name is prominently displayed on the cold calling screen as a caller ID. Don't do anything cutesy or unknown or whatever. Display your name. That's one of my big pet peeves, especially when people cold call and they won't say who they are. I always say, "Hi, Dan, this is Christine Harrington, the Savvy Sales Lady. Is this a bad time to call to talk to you?" And,
perfect.
You say who you are. You don't try to play these games to try to get somebody on the phone. The best, and then of course you hear cold calling is dead. No, it is not. The reason why people say it's dead because they're lousy at it. That's why it's dead to them. But cold calling is a viable tool in this day and age. You just have to be savvy about it. And for younger people, you have to understand who you're calling. If you're calling someone that's over 40, you got to use the phone. And chances are you are calling someone over 40. You have to use the phone. If they give you permission to text them, fine. You can use text then. I always like to find out with a prospect, what is the best way that's easiest for you and I to communicate. Find out what their preferred choice is when you go down that road. So, pick up the phone and call. And texting is fine once you've made that initial phone call and you've gotten the permission.
Yeah,
I think and here's another thing. Sorry, Chris. Here's another thing. I hear this a lot too. Well, I don't want to interrupt anyone. Business owners know they're going to get cold calls. They know it. So if you acknowledge, is this a bad time to talk right off the bat? people have said to me, you know, I'm going into a meeting right now. Can you call me tomorrow at such and such time? And so I'll call, or they'll say, yeah, you know, I have a few minutes to talk. But the whole idea in cold calling for the young people is, I should say the younger people, is be friendly, but be professional. Drop the dudes, drop the hey there. You know, you're going to speak professionally, but you're going to do it friendly.
Yeah, I love it. You said two things there that I have to climb upon. The first is what your initial thing of you saying who you are and then what you're there for and all that. That's a very psychological thing. You're thinking like someone who receives the phone. So as soon as you pick up the phone, you say hello, in your head, you're thinking, who is this? Like that's the first thing that you're thinking. And so if the person says who this is, you're like, okay, I'm satisfied with that. And then the next thing you're thinking is, why are you calling? Mm-hmm. And so then if you say, you know, why you're calling, then you're like, oh, that satisfies that. And then if you ask them, are you, and you can do this in 2 seconds, is this a bad time? They're like, I can answer that question in my head. I'm thinking, am I too busy? I'm like, it's okay. So in their head, there were no bridges, there were no impediments to getting to your question. It was a very smooth thing. I always do that. I wonder if you could help me, but it's the same thing. Hey, this is Dan. I wonder if you can help me. I'm with a company that does this. Did I catch it at a bad time? Mm-hmm. Or who would be the person I need to speak with? So it's very, very quick and easy. Love that. Secondly, about younger people, my wife, I was talking with her the other day, and she was saying that her good friend has built a viable, successful coaching practice teaching phone etiquette to college students.
Oh my gosh, that is so needed.
Yeah, it's just phone etiquette. Like people, it's not like they're rude or mean. They literally don't know the appropriate way to answer a phone, and so they just don't do it.
And Dan, what's even sadder is, you know, don't get me started with our educational system. They stopped teaching children. I mean, my son was never taught cursive. He's 30 years old. He was never taught cursive, and I had to teach him. They stopped teaching cursive in school. So you're right.
What a shame.
Yeah,
I love writing in cursive. I love writing in cursive. I write in my journal every day in cursive, and it's just a flowing thing. Yeah, they don't teach it. That's a shame. It's fun. So, you know, but if you think about it, you don't know something until you're taught it.
Right.
But once you know it forever. Like I was reading, I read a biography of Alexander Graham Bell a million years ago. By the way, biographies, it's all made up. What a bunch. I mean, you read 3 different books and they're all different. But one thing I remember I don't remember the whole thing, but I remember this. When he invented the phone, he and Thomas Edison, and it's like a new industry. Like one of the things they had to figure out is, what is the appropriate way to answer the phone? What do you say? Like we say hello and all that. I guess that's what it came to. You could have been hey, but Alexander Graham Bell, he was vying for I guess a notable nautical term of the time. He wanted you to answer ahoy, which I think would have been fun to say ahoy. So I wish more people knew that story so I could say ahoy.
Go right ahead, Dan. I'll call you to see if you say ahoy.
Differentiator.
Yes.
I have one more tip for cold calling.
Please.
For the younger generations. And this isn't going to be a popular tip at all. But one of the pushbacks I get, and I'm sure you'll relate to this too, Dan. Well, I don't want to use scripts. I want it to be more natural. I want it to be more me. Well, scripts keep you from rambling. They keep you on track. They keep you in a concise conversation and stops you from sounding like, you're rambling all over the place. But the real key is before you pick up that phone to make a call, you practice your script in the voice memo section app, and you practice it and practice it. You play it back so you can hear how you'll sound to the prospect, right? You want to fine tune the way you sound so you come across as professional, friendly, and casual. Don't, even to this day, Dan, before I cold call, I practice in my voice memo before I even make the first call. You have to warm your voice up, and you want to make sure that you're sounding the way you should sound. So practice, practice, practice. And I will say this until they put me in the ground. Practice. All of the great professionals, even though Michael Jordan, was a phenomenal basketball player, he would have a game one night and be in the gym at 4:00 the next morning practicing. They still practiced. And Michael Jordan hired a personal coach. So all of you young'uns out there, if you want to get better, hire a sales coach that can be right there with you in the trenches, working with you and helping you.
And keeping you accountable.
Keeping you accountable. And if you can't afford it, then you pitch it to your boss. You sell it to your boss and have your boss bring in a sales coach.
That's money. That is absolute money. You don't go to the gym once and come back shredded, right? It takes reps, and it goes with, what I do in content creation and podcasting and live video. You don't just show up and expect to be, whomever, Simon Sinek or whomever. You have to work at it. You have to, and I love the concept of recording yourself. Also on video as well. I think you can have that you can create that energy. And if you're talking on a phone and you're watching yourself, that can also be a way to record yourself. And I think it's a great way to get better. And also taking that and giving to someone you trust that's going to give you something that can help you, and you got to be ready to receive it, right? And this as a coach, it's like somebody will say, hey, what do you think about this? And if they're really just asking you because they want positive response, or do they really want the honest, here's what I think could make you better, and be ready to receive that, not get your feelings hurt from it. Like, okay, this is a person that I respect. This is how I can get better. This is how I can be Christine Harrington like when I start making cold calls. It's fantastic advice.
Well, thank you, Chris. The other thing that I've done too is I'll critique someone's Zoom conversation with a prospect and help them that way too. So I've done both,
Well, so now let's talk about that for a second, because there are a lot of presentations that are being done by Zoom now. And I noticed that as much as I've been harping on it, people will tend to go without putting their picture up there. Some people still blank themselves out.
On a prospect Zoom call?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's, you won't be taken seriously if you do that. The part of the relationship building is that they see you. Right. They can't know you if they can't see you.
Right, but that whole sound is there. Well, I think that's excellent. So when there's a couple of things. There are, people are in different fields. I understand the small business person can be much more kind of rifle-like when they're going after particular customers, but there are a bunch of AEs or a lot of basically frontline people, just setting appointment setters type of people who have to do, more of a shotgun approach, or more of getting the reps out and getting the numbers out there. And many of them use different CRMs. Do you have any CRMs that you can suggest that you work with, or how to get the numbers up?
Well, a couple of the teams that I've worked with in the past, they've used Salesforce and now I'm running a blank. Nutshell. Nutshell isn't as robust as Salesforce, but when I'm coaching insurance teams that work for insurance agencies, they have a whole nother level of CRMs, which I hate.
Oh, they're calling software, the Ring Centrals or the phone burners or.
No, they're insurance. They're what do I want to say? They're specific to the insurance industry, and they're not very well done, to be honest with you. So I always try to encourage them to get another one.
Yeah, but I think you're right. You can, even with those companies that they want to get you a bunch of numbers out, the AI and the availability of being to target your market right now is just tremendous. That there's not much of an excuse not to build a strong list right now for you to go after.
Well, I agree with that, Dan.
With those things, we go there. Well, great. So this is also okay. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do it?
Well, they would go to, if they want to book a consultation just to see if coaching is right for them or if we're a fit, they can go to my website, and there's a tab that says contact, and they can just press on that contact like Chris is doing now, and that takes them to my scheduler, and they can either call me, leave a message, an email, or they can actually book an appointment with my availability in my calendar. So that's one way of doing it. All
right. Well, let me ask you, who do you, there's some people that just, I don't succeed with. They're just not good prospects or good customers for me. So who is best for you? Like how would somebody know if they're ready for Christine Harrington?
Well, it would, I love teaching younger salespeople and coaching younger salespeople. But even I've coached people around mindset, those seasoned veterans who, and you know this, Dan, from being in sales, sometimes you get stuck. And all of a sudden you've had great years and now you are just bombing every single month and you can't figure out why. Most of those seasoned veterans think that they have a sales problem, and really what they have is a mindset problem. And so I love helping them get unstuck and back on the road to selling again.
Really? I see. And that's really important to realize that sales is mostly a psychological game. Every salesperson's first territory is the one between their ears. They got to get their heads right and their mindset right and their message right, and then everything falls into place. And I think everything you're hitting on is just such kind of traditional sales fundamentals that aren't quite lost, but people need to be reminded from time to time. It starts with your routine. It starts with your morning. It starts with scheduling your day, maybe even the night before. I can never do it because after 8 o'clock, I'm like a potato. I cannot, but at 0400, I'm ready to rock and roll. So know yourself, know your body, stay in shape, schedule your day, do what you know you're supposed to do, and let everything work out on its own. You were going to say something before I went on my little diatribe.
I forgot.
Oh, yes, I do that to people. It's mesmerizing when you listen to this stuff. Chris Stone used to be so much smarter before he met me. Life changes when you meet the DJ. But once again, he puts on the world's best produced podcast. Thank you, Chris Stone. I can't say enough for everybody that comes on the show says, and I'm going to expect you to say it too, that this was the best produced show they've ever been on. Right, Christine Harrington?
Well, other than mine, it's the best produced show I've ever been on.
Well played.
Okay.
Well played, Christine.
Well,
but Dan, you've always been a favorite of mine. I've always loved following you, and I really, really appreciate you being on this show. I hope you come on mine in the future.
Yeah, well, you just got to ask. I'm easy, and no better time. I can't think of a more fun time for me to do in any situation than just sit around and talk sales. I don't know why, but all of a sudden, when you start talking about it again, you feel like you're just getting started again. Then you get that energy, then you're ready to rock and roll, and it's like a new life every day. The most perfect thing about this business that we're in is you get to change your life every single day. You can meet somebody that can just make your world go in a whole new direction of new heights. And you're never starting from zero when you're in this business.
No, we're doing what we love.
And so I wish nothing more than for you to have the best day of your life, eat well, live long and prosper. I hope nothing bad ever happens to you. You guys go get them today. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dan.